Okay, today is January 28th, 2023, and welcome to the 2023 Pear series. So right now, the temperature has been pretty warm, out of the ordinary. Usually it's pretty cold in January, but this year, for some reason, we've had such warm conditions, and the pears are, I think they're a little bit confused because they are starting to break. The buds are starting to break open, and that is sort of like a bad thing sometimes, because if they break open and the buds are begin to form, and then the cold weather hits, freeze come, then they would drop everything. So that's a bad thing. So this is my Korean giant, and let me show you guys something else. Here is a new Korean giant that I just got. It's basically like a little twig, and this pear tree here, about 4 seasons ago, it's around the same size. So that's really how I bought it. It came exactly like this. It's just bare root. It came in a little bag like this, and then I planted it, and then I just wait. So after 3 years they will start to fruit, and then after 4 years they will start to fruit more. So they will continue to grow. These Korean giants can get pretty enormous, so they will grow up to, like, maybe 15 to 20 feet if you allow them. So anyway, we're gonna talk about a few things, like how to trim your pear trees during the off season, when to graft if you want to do grafting. I'll show you some of the grafts that I've done, pruning and all that stuff. So we'll start with my Korean giant. This has always been my favorite variety because they produce some of the most delicious pears. They're extremely large, and they can store for, like, months, 6 to 7 months in the fridge. And so they're one of the best pears to grow if you like nice and large sweet pears that they're easy to grow, and not a lot of problems. Okay, so this time of the year is when I start to do some pruning, and basically pruning is very simple for me. What I usually do is I'll go through and I'll cut off water shoots that started to grow, and they're crisscross and get in the way of each other. Like, for example, this one here, you see, it's grown inward into the middle right here. Usually what I would do is I'd love to leave the center all bare. That way wind and aeration can get through, and then it's better for the plant's health overall. So for something like this is actually a fruiting bud. I'm not going to cut that off. I'll leave those. But water shoots and new growth that points all over the place, you want to get rid of those. So you see here, you see this branch right here, and they have 3 new shoots right here. These are not going to be fruiting shoots. They're just going to be they're just going to grow leaves and just get in the way. And so the reason I haven't chopped this branch off yet is because I'm going to cut this branch and I'm going to graft it onto something else. And so yeah, consider that as well. Before you do any pruning, just consider if you want to take some of the branches and graft onto other trees. And that is actually a good time. You see these here? This will go. That's just a new water shoots. They're not going to do anything. They just grow leaves. So let me show you some of the grafts that I've done over the years. We'll start with this one here. This is a Shinko graft right here. You see, look at that. It's perfectly blended in now. You almost cannot tell, except so there's this scar right here, but when the leaves grow, you're not going to be able to see anything. I love Shinko varieties because they are some of the best variety to withstand against fire blight. If you live in the south in the warm climate, fire blight could be very common, and so you want to pick a variety that can withstand fire blight, and Shinko is one of the best one. Korean giant works very well. The only problem with Korean giant is if you grow a Korean giant, you want another variety that is compatible to pollinate it. And so you can buy a different variety, like the Hosui, Shinseiki, 20th century and stuff like that. Those will help pollinate. Or you can also take a graft and then graft it onto the Korean giants. You have multiple varieties on the same tree, and that also helps with the pollination. And so here's my second graft. This is another one right here. And so this one is the Chojuro. Chojiros are also great as pollinator for the Korean giant as well. And so consider buying some of those varieties. Make sure you get one for the Korean giants, because they do require pollination to bear lots of fruits. And so it has a very rigorous habit. It grows upward. It doesn't grow out. And so the leaves are gonna kind of like get in the way of each other. So you may need, you know, like trimming. You might even have to train the branches, like get something to pull it back, like I did to this one here with the rope. I'm kind of trying to train it so that it can grow out a little bit. And so yeah, that's one variety. So if you have not seen the fruits for them, go back to my previous year, the updates, and you will see them. And again, you can buy them bare root. This time of the year they will ship between, you know, January to March. And you can get a small twig like this, or you know, and they'll grow very fast. So 3 years is all it takes. I mean, it does seem like it's a long time, but it's really worth the wait. Okay. And here is my let's say 4-in-1, 5-in-1, 6-in-1. I mean, I grafted all kinds of stuff on here. And let me talk a little bit about this variety. So this the rootstock is a European pear, and the European pears make great rootstocks for you know, grafting you know, Asian pears on top, because they're very hardy. And also the thing with the European rootstock is a lot of the times you will get these are shoots that grows from the bottom of this, and usually what you need to do is you can cut them all off. And because if you don't, they will grow and they will take over the, you know, and then the rest of the other grass will remain small. And so I'll show you one. You see this one here? This is the original shoot that grew from the European one. This as well. And then what I did was, instead of cutting it off, I use it to practice grafting. And so I grafted a Korean giant onto here, and then I also grafted a Korean giant onto here. And because I plucked off all of the shoots that would form from the original branch, only allowing the graft to grow, so they don't grow as fast. And so this one here, you see this is a shoot from the bottom. And I have plans for these, so that's why they're still here. And that one has already been grafted. Look, see, the graft is a success. And so you can use those to practice grafting, because you know, well, you're gonna cut them off anyway, so why not use them to practice and get better at grafting. And this enormous branch right here was the original shoot that came out from the side, and because I allowed it to grow so big, I decided to graft a Korean giant onto this. I did this a few years ago, so that's why it's so enormous. And then from that, it grew into its own, you know, branch, and producing fruits every season. And so now I have multiple grafts because of that additional one that I did right here. And see, this one right here, this one right here as well. And then I took branches from that variety to graft onto this variety onto that variety. So I'm grafting all over the place. So this one here is the Shinseiki, and this is Hosui right on top of it. And the back over there is the Hosui with the Shinseiki. So I swapped the two. And so there's different varieties onto all of them. And this is the 20th century here. And then in the middle here we have the Chojuro. And so again, you see these branches are kind of like in the way, and so either cut them off or cut them off and save the branches for grafting onto something else. And so I would do additional trimming later, because I'm waiting for a few more months so I can cut these off and take it to my land and graft it onto my other trees. Okay, this beautiful specimen right here is the Shinko. And you see all of those tags flapping in the wind there? Those are all different grafts that I grafted onto this beautiful tree. And I'm very proud of this one here because it is a beautiful tree. And this one is actually a semi-dwarf, so it doesn't grow very big. You see, it does, you know, shoot out right there. I usually cut all of those off because I don't want it to go past the fence too much. And so those up there, I'm going to chop those off as well, and then I'll use those grafts to do something else with those. But look at the tree, it is beautiful. So this is here, this particular tree here produced, I think it's over 200 fruits this year. I mean, I collected so many. So make sure you visit the previous videos in the previous season so you can see all the fruits that came from this. And so let me take you closer and show you some of the grafts. And I actually grafted an apple onto this, so, and it worked. And it's been here for 2 years now. So we'll start with the apple. You see this is just a side shoot. It's still Shinko. The graft is from the bottom right here. So on top from here, so this is still just Shinko variety. But this one here is a Fuji apple. I did a bud graft onto just a branch for practice. And look at that, the bud took and then the apple grew. It takes forever to grow, but yeah, after 2 seasons, this is all that I've gotten. So I'm just gonna let it go and see how much more the apple can grow off of this. But the rest are, you know, you see these are Chojuro that I grafted. Man, these grafts are, I've done so many grafts that I started to get really good at them. And so you know, the graft looks quite good. I'm a bit impressed with what I've done. And you can look at that, see? They're very nice. And this is the one that I did initially for the very first time, and that is a horrible graft. You see this it didn't mend together completely because I didn't do the cut correctly. I probably used a dull knife as well, so that's not a good graft, but I left it on there anyway. And so here's another graft that I did right here. You see it healed really nice. And when you see you know, that the both sections look around the same size and all the healing, there's no you know, like no dents or no holes and stuff like that, that's when you know it is a good graft. And this one here as well, you see the scar healed up right here, and like it looks great. You can't even tell it's a graft if you didn't realize that it was a graft. And see some over here too, see, those are nice good grafts there. And I did a few smaller grafts on here. So you can do big grafts with large branches, or you can do little branches and they would all work. So yeah, you can take branches as large as these right here, just cut them off and graft it onto your other tree, and make sure the branch that you select are the same size, and use a sharp grafting knife, make good cuts. I did a how to graft, so make sure you check those videos out, and you can try to mimic that or just do it on your own. But yeah, that is a Shinko right there. And then I have Persimmon. This is giant Fuyu, and you see next to it is a little twig. That is an apple, an Opal apple that I grew from seed. Now here is the interesting thing. You see this branch right here, this massive branch with all these little branches coming out of that. That is actually the top that I cut off of that little tree over there. So here, see this top right here. Initially, I grew this one from seed, and I cut the top off, and I took the top and I grafted right here. Well, this branch was initially very small, so I grafted right there. So it was really small, this little branch here. It was about probably this size right here. And so I grafted it. Man, this is a nice graft right here. It healed up really well. Look at that. And then from here, it started to grow these enormous branches, and I don't know why the branches are so big, and the you know, the initial parent, which is, you know, a clone of itself, is that tiny. It could be that this tree is established, and so it has a larger root system that allows it to pull up all the nutrients that it needs to feed the branches. I have Red Delicious, Gala, Fuji, and Golden Delicious, and now I grafted on an Opal. And so yeah, that's multi-graft, and this is a really cool thing. So you see this little graft right here is actually a pear graft. That is a Hosui, and you can tell the difference. This is, you see how red this is, and this is kind of like a different color, a brownish, because that's a pear right here. This is a Hosui pear, and this is apple. So what I'm gonna have to do is I need to trim this back, because I want all the resources to go to my pear. That way it can compete with the rest of the other branches. So yeah, this apple tree is going to need a lot of trimming, pruning, but I need those branches also to graft onto other apple trees, so that's why I'm still waiting. Okay, this is the last Shinko variety. This is a smaller one, and last year it only produced like 2 fruits, and it's really strange. One year it produced a ton. The year after that it didn't produce much, which is okay, because I wanted to the tree to focus more on growth, and it actually did. You see all these new growth right here, and all those new growth up there, and these here. And I might take this and graft something else on top, because Shinko, I have 2 Shinko trees, so I really don't need all that. Here's a graft right here that I'm trying to train. Let's see what this is. Chojuro. So these are Chojuro, and a Korean giant on 2 of them. One here and one right here. So it's growing upward right here. So I'm pushing it out so that it can grow outward. And so I'm gonna train it a little bit more, so that it can come out and not get in the way, you know, under these here. And yeah, this is pretty cool. Shinko, a semi-dwarf, is great for your backyard because they don't grow enormous, and the fence is 8 feet, so you know, keep it slightly under. You still get a lot of fruit for a single family, way enough. And so you don't need enormous trees that grow up to like you know, 20-30 feet. So let me show you one more persimmon tree, and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, before we look at the persimmon, I forgot to show you one more thing. This is something that I'm very, very proud of. This here is a tree that I grew from seed, and I forgot what variety it was. I think it's one of those that the Asian pear that I got in a supermarket. I just took the seeds out, and I grew two trees. One of them I gave to my parent, and this one here I kept. And you see, look, I've been training this to grow outward, and also I did a lot of grafting. So this is a graft right here, and that is a Shinseiki. And here's another graft right here, that is a Chojuro. And then the top right here, this is a Korean giant. And then the rest is just the seed, you know, the original plant. And I've been training it, and look at that. It's a small tree, but it looks great. It's growing exactly how I want it to grow. This branch is starting to grow in like this, so I'm training it to grow out. So later I'm gonna use a string to pull it out a little bit more. But yeah, and then I'm gonna take this to my property and probably grow it out there. Okay, lastly here, actually I have one more. This is the Fuyu. This is the regular Fuyu. Fuyus are some of the most common persimmons that are grown in Asia. They're non-astringent, so that means you can eat them as soon as they turn yellow. You don't have that puckering flavor in your mouth, and you don't have to wait until they're super soft. They're sweet regardless, and they're easy to grow. They can withstand temperature down to -10 degrees, and they're just very, very productive. So one small little tree, you have plenty of persimmons for the entire family. And these are just great varieties to grow. So guys, if you have never grown persimmons before, I highly recommend you looking into a Fuyu. And there's multiple different type of Fuyu, but as long as there is Fuyu in the name, you're good to go. They're just non-astringent. They're highly productive. They taste great. They can withstand cold temperature. Once you get them going, you don't have to do anything. They grow on their own, and just amazing flavor and taste. And they're just lovely. And lastly, this is the last one. This is another Fuyu, giant Fuyu. Last year the temperature was so crazy hot that the fruits were really small. So I didn't I don't even call them giant. They're like little nuggets. They're so small, but man, the flavor, they taste like brown sugar, like straight up brown sugar. They're so sweet. And so this year I'm gonna let them grow a little bit more. Maybe I'll prune the fruits a little bit so that they can have just a few, because the tree is just so small. And I might take this out to my property and allow this tree to grow to their maximal potential. So yeah, again, Fuyu, giant Fuyu. They're called there's the gyro Fuyu, there's the giant Fuyu, there's a regular Fuyu. Make sure you read into them before you make a purchase, because they're basically in the same family, but they're different sizes, slightly different flavor. And again, as I mentioned, as long as they're Fuyu, you're safe. They're great. So anyway, I will end this pear season right here for the first video. I will continue throughout the year, and then in the next video I might show you how to do spraying. I do some winter spraying just to get rid of all of the pests and stuff like that may be attached to the plant over the winter. And that's about it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.